She fell from 33,000 feet in the air. That is 6 miles above the ground. She had no parachute. Her plane had just exploded into 3 pieces around her. Every single other person on board died instantly. She survived. Not just survived, she woke up and asked for a cigarette. This is the true story of Vesna Vulovic, the most miraculous survivor in human history. Vesna Vulovic was a 22-year-old Serbian woman who had dreamed of seeing the world. She had become a flight attendant just 8 months before this day. Not because she loved flying, but because she loved the Beatles. She had heard that flight attendants got to travel to London. And she desperately wanted to see her favorite band perform. On January 26, 1972, she was supposed to be on a different flight entirely. The airline made a simple clerical error. They confused her with another flight attendant who had the same first name, Vesna. That single mistake put her on flight 367 that afternoon. It was a decision that would change her life forever. Flight 367 departed Copenhagen at 3:15 in the afternoon. It was carrying 28 passengers and crew members. The destination was Belgrade in Yugoslavia. Everything was normal for the first 46 minutes of the flight. Then at exactly 4:01 in the afternoon, disaster struck. A massive explosion tore through the baggage compartment of the aircraft. The force was so powerful it ripped the entire plane into 3 separate pieces. Most passengers were sucked out of the aircraft immediately. They fell to their deaths before they even understood what had happened. But Vesna Vulovic was at the back of the plane. She was working with a food cart in the tail section of the fuselage. When the explosion hit, the food cart pinned her against the wall. That food cart saved her life. The tail section began its descent from 33,000 feet. It fell through freezing clouds at hundreds of kilometers per hour. Inside, Vesna Vulovic was unconscious. She felt nothing. She remembered nothing. Below, a small village sat quietly in the Czech countryside. The hillside was covered in thick snow and dense forest. By some extraordinary miracle, the tail section hit the snow-covered hillside at a perfect angle. The deep snow absorbed some of the impact. The thick forest slowed the descent in the final seconds. Without those two things, nobody could have survived. A local villager named Bruno Honke heard the crash and ran toward the wreckage. Amid the destroyed aircraft, he heard a sound. Someone was still breathing. Vesna Vulovic was alive, but barely. Bruno Honke had been a combat medic during World War II. He immediately began first aid to keep her alive. Emergency services rushed her to a hospital in Prague. She had a fractured skull. 3 broken vertebrae in her spine. Both legs were broken. Multiple ribs were broken. Her pelvis was completely crushed. Her brain had hemorrhaged. She was temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. Her doctors told her parents that she would not survive. They were wrong. Vesna Vulovic spent several days in a coma. When she finally woke, the first thing she did was ask for a cigarette. The nurses were stunned. The doctors were speechless. She had absolutely no memory of the explosion. No memory of the fall. No memory of hitting the ground. The last thing she remembered was greeting passengers at the start of the flight. The next memory was seeing her parents standing over her hospital bed. 6 miles of freefall, completely erased from her mind. Within 10 months of the crash, Vesna Vulovic was walking again. Doctors had predicted she would never walk. She proved them completely wrong. She returned to her airline in a desk role. She was not afraid of flying. She had no memory of the crash to be afraid of. She later said, "I am not afraid of flying because I cannot remember the fall." Her survival had several explanations. Her position in the tail section kept her inside the aircraft while others were sucked out. The food cart prevented her from being ejected. Her unusually low blood pressure kept her heart from bursting on impact. The snow-covered hillside slowed the final descent. Change any one of these factors, and she does not survive. Every single element had to go exactly right. And somehow, they all did. In 1985, 13 years after the crash, Vesna Vulovic received official recognition. The Guinness Book of World Records presented her with a certificate. The certificate was handed to her personally by Paul McCartney. The same Paul McCartney from the Beatles. The same band she had originally become a flight attendant to see. The girl who joined an airline to see the Beatles, received her world record from a Beatle himself. You truly cannot write stories like this. Vesna Vulovic did not choose to be on that flight. A clerical error put her there. She did not choose to survive. Physics, snow, food carts and low blood pressure made the decision for her. But what she did choose, every single day after, was to live fully without fear. She flew again. She laughed again. She loved again. She asked for a cigarette the moment she woke from a coma after falling 6 miles. And that tells you everything you need to know about Vesna Vulovic. If you found this story as extraordinary as we did, Curio Strike has a lot more where this came from. We cover the most mind-blowing true stories from around the world every single week. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because you will not want to miss what is coming next. See you in the next one.